Hi children, I'm happy to meet you all with Prose 10, The Black Spot, which is given in your English literature book in page number 123. So children, this lesson, The Black Spot, is actually an extract from the novel Treasure Island, which was written by R.L. Stevenson. That is Robert Louis Stevenson. Hope you're clear. Extract means they have taken some portions from the novel Treasure Island and they have framed you as a lesson. So hi children, it's time to know about the author of this lesson. So Robert Louis Stevenson is actually known as R.L. Stevenson, but the full name of Robert Louis Stevenson is Robert Louis Balfour Stevenson. He lived between the year 1850 to 1894 children. He was a Scottish novelist and travel writer. Coming from the family of engineers, he studied engineering at University of Edinburgh. But he spent most of his time in traveling and writing children. He continued to spend his time in Scotland, England and France during the period 1880 to 87. It was the period actually when he produced bulk of his best known novels like Treasure Island, Kidnapped, Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and A Child's Garden of Verses. So children, it's time to see the very important thing that we are going to come across in this lesson. Yes children, what is black spot? You can say black spot is a pirate code children. The idea is that when a captain is about to be deposed, he is given a slip of paper with a black spot on it. Okay? Children, deposed means removed. Okay? So this is the pirate equivalent of judgment in a court of law. When a captain receives this piece of paper, he knows that he has violated the pirate code and must be punished accordingly. Okay? In simple words, black spot is actually a threat indicating that the pirate receiving it would be punished for a wrongdoing. So children, before entering into the prose in detail, let me give you a small gist about this story. So this story begins at the inn called the Admiral Benbow, which belongs to Jim Hawkins' parents. A mysterious stranger called Billy Bones, who always likes to call him as Captain, who rents a room at the inn, wants Jim to keep a lookout for a one-legged man. One day, Billy was visited by a beggar called Blind Few, who gives him the black spot, which is a mark of imminent death among pirate crews. So children, I want you all to take page number 123. In his novel Treasure Island, Robert Louis Stevenson made up something called the black spot. It's a threat indicating that the pirate receiving it would be punished for a wrongdoing. Pirate means a person who attacks and robs ships at sea. So we have already seen about the black spot. Now let's enter into the prose. Squire Trelawney, Dr. Livesey and the others have asked me to write down all I know about Treasure Island. My name is Jim Hawkins and I was in the story right from the start back in 17. I was only a boy then and it all began at the time my father owned the Admiral Benbow Inn. Inn means a hotel children. I remember so clearly the day when the old seaman came to stay. I can almost see him in front of me as I write. He arrived with his sea chest. You all know what a sea chest. A sailor's storage box. A tall, strong man with a cut across one cheek. The old seaman called for a drink and stood outside, drinking and looking around. Our inn was on the cliffs above Black Hill Cove and was a wild, lonely place, but the seaman seemed to like it. Do many people come here? He asked. No, my father told him. Then it's the place for me, said the seaman. I'll stay here for a bit. You can call me Captain. He threw down 3 or 4 gold coins. Tell me when I have spent all that. He was a silent man. All day he walked around the cove or up on the cliffs. Cove means cave, okay? All evening he sat in the corner of the room. Every day he asked if any seaman had gone along the road. At first we thought he wanted friends of his own kind, but then we began to understand that there was a different reason. He told me to watch for a seaman with one leg and to let him know the moment a man like that appeared. He promised to give me a silver coin every month for doing this. I dreamt about this one legged seaman for many nights afterwards. As Jim's father inn was on the cliff above Black Hill Cove, which was a wild, lonely place. Thinking and feeling all these things, the seaman liked their inn and asked Jim's father about the number of visitors to their inn. In reply to him, Jim's father said that no one came to their inn and he was the first one to enter. On hearing about this, the seaman decided to stay over there as it was the best place for him. He then gave them 3 or 4 gold coins and set them to ask him once he had spent all that. He also told Jim and his father to call him as Captain. Okay, so here we can understand that seaman was happy with the in case if he had spent all those money. Okay, and he also told Jim and his father to call him as Captain. Hope you're clear. Yes. Apart from this, we can also understand that Captain was a silent man who used to spend his daytime in cove. Cove means cave or up on the cliffs. Then one evening he used to sat in a corner of the room. Apart from this, Captain asked Jim if any seaman had gone along the road. At first, Jim and his father thought that Captain was often asking about his friends of his own kind in order to make himself comfort, but then they realized that there might be a different reason. So, children, one day Captain called Jim and promised to give him a silver coin every month. In return to the reward of that silver coin, Captain asked Jim to intimate him about the appearance of one-legged seaman. Because of this work, Jim started to dream about one-legged seaman for many nights, which became his nightmare. So children, take your page number 124. The captain stayed week after week, month after month. His gold coins were soon used up, but my father was a sick man and I was afraid to ask for more. Dr. Livesey came late one afternoon. After he had seen my father, he had dinner with us. I noticed the difference between the doctor, with his white hair and pleasant way of speaking, and that dirty, heavy, red-faced seaman. One January morning, the captain got up early and walked down to the beach. It was a cold winter's day, with the sun still low in the sky. My mother was upstairs with my father, who was now very ill. I was getting the table ready for the captain's breakfast. Suddenly, the door of the inn opened and a man stepped inside. I had never seen him before. He wore a sailor's short sword by his side, and I noticed he had only 3 fingers on his left hand. I asked him what he wanted, and he said, "I'll take a drink," but before I could fetch it, he told me to come near him. "Is this table for my old friend Bill?" the stranger asked with a terrible smile. I told him I did not know his friend Bill, and the breakfast was for a man who was staying at the inn. "We call him the captain," I said. "Does he have a sword cut on his face?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "That's Bill," said the stranger. "Is he here?" I told him the captain was out walking, and the man waited like a cat waiting for a mouse. I did not like the look on his face, and was sure the captain would not be pleased to see him. When the captain came back, the man pulled me behind the door. The captain opened the door and walked across the room. "Bill," said the stranger. The captain turned quickly and saw us. The color went from his face, and he looked old and sick. "Black dog," he said. He stared at the stranger. "And what do you want?" So here we can understand that captain stayed in the inn beyond months. The gold coins which was given by him were soon used up. Apart from this, Jim's father was also sick, and so Dr. Livesey visited the inn one afternoon to check Jim's father, and then he had dinner with Jim's family. So here Jim noticed the difference of the appearance between the doctor and the captain. Yes, children, doctor was looking pleasant with his pleasant way of speaking, and he also has a white hair, who was different from that dirty, heavy, red faced seaman. That is Captain, children. 1 January. When Captain got up early and went to the beach, Jim's mother was taking care of the sick father, okay, in upstairs. As Jim was getting ready with the captain's breakfast on the table, a strange sailor man with short sword by his side and with only 3 fingers on his left hand entered the inn and asked Jim for a drink. And he also inquired him about his old friend Bill with a terrible smile. So, in order to reply to him, Jim told that the table was for a man who stays there at the inn, and they used to call him as Captain. On hearing this, the sailor man asked Jim about the sword cut on Captain's face, where Jim too replied him that yes, he has the sword cut on his face, which made the sailor man to guess that it was his friend Bill. Jim then told the sailorman that Captain went out for walking. On hearing it, the sailorman was waiting like a cat waiting for a mouse. Here we can understand that even Jim did not like the man's look, and Jim understood that Captain would not be pleased to see the sailorman. As Captain was on his way to inn, the man pulled Jim behind the door and called out Bill when Captain entered the room. On hearing it, Captain turned quickly. He felt old and sick and turned pale that his nose became blue. "Black dog?" said the captain, and stared at him. Finally, Captain inquired Black Dog that what does he want. Children, take your page number 125. "You and I'll sit and talk like old friends," said Black Dog. "They told me to go away. I went out of the room, but the voices became louder. No, no, and that's an end of it. I heard the captain shout, 'If one is caught, we'll all be caught.' There were more shouts, and then the sound of the table crashing over. Next, I heard the sound of swords. Then Black Dog ran out of the inn and disappeared from sight down the road. The captain chased him, but gave up and returned. He could only just stand on his feet. I realized he was feeling ill and ran to fetch him something to drink. Then I heard him falling and hurried back to find him on the floor. My mother heard the noise and came downstairs. We lifted the captain's head. His eyes were closed and his face was a terrible color. At that moment, Dr. Livesey arrived to see my father. He looked at the captain and said to my mother, 'His heart can't take much more of this.' The captain opened his eyes and tried to sit up. 'Where's Black Dog?' he asked. 'There's no Black Dog here,' said the doctor. 'Get on your feet and I'll help you to your bed.' Later that day, I took the captain a drink. 'Did the doctor say how long I must lie in my bed, Jim?' he asked. 'A week,' I told him. 'A week?' he cried. 'I can't do that. They'll have the black spot on me by then. They'll come for me.' 'Who will? Black Dog?' I said. 'Yes, but there's worse than him. It's my old sea chest they want, but I'll show them. Jim, if I get the black spot, you go to that doctor. Tell him to bring a crowd of law officers and a local judge to the inn. They can catch Flint's crew, all that are left, at the Admiral Benbow. I was Flint's first officer, and I am the only one who knows the place. He told me when he was dying. But don't call the law unless they give me the black spot, or if you see the seaman with one leg. He is worse than any of them. But what is the black spot, Captain? I asked. That's a message, boy. I'll tell you if they give me that. Keep your eyes open. Jim, help me, and I'll give you half of everything I have. He talked for a little longer, then fell into a heavy sleep, and I left him. So here we can understand that avoiding Jim, both Black Dog and Captain, they sat down and they started to talk like old friends. But later on, their conversation started to raise with loud voices. Yes, children, they started to shout and crash the table. Finally, they took their swords and fought each other. Finally, Black Dog ran out of the inn and disappeared. And then, when Jim found that Captain was sick, he ran to bring him a drink. Immediately, Jim rushed towards the captain as he fallen down the floor. On hearing the noise, even Jim's mom came downstairs. So Jim and his mom lifted the captain's head as his eyes were closed and his face was a terrible color. Just then, Dr. Livesey arrived to check Jim's father. On seeing Captain's condition, he said to Jim's mom that his heart can't take much more of drink. Now Captain opened his eyes and asked for black talk, whereas Doctor replied him that there's no black talk over here. And then both Doctor and Jim helped Captain to lay down on his bed. Later on, when Jim brought a drink for Captain, he inquired Jim about his rest on the bed. Jim replied that doctor had advised to take a week rest. On hearing it, Captain cried, a week rest, which was not possible for him to do so, cause he thought that he would be found by others and then they will have black spot on him. So children, after hearing the captain's cry, Jim asked him whether he was talking about black dog, but captain refused. That there's worse than black dog, it was his old sea chest which they were looking for. Captain called Jim and informed him to call the doctor in case if he receives the black spot. Moreover, he also told Jim, who Captain told Jim to call the doctor along with the law officers, okay, a crowd of law officers and a local judge to the inn. You know for what? In order to catch Flint's crew who were left, so that they could catch the Flint's crew at the Admiral Benbow. He also told Jim that he was Flint's first officer and he was the only one who knows the place, okay, which was told by Flint before he dies. And Captain also told Jim that not to call the law unless he receives the black spot, or if he sees the seaman with one leg, who was worse than any of them. So, after hearing all these things, Jim asked about the black spot to the captain, whereas captain told that it was a message, and he also asked him to help him. Who asked help from whom? Yes, captain asked help from Jim. And captain told Jim that he would give half of everything that he has. Slowly, he talked for a little longer and then he fell into a heavy sleep. And finally, Jim left him alone. Children, take page number 126. A couple of days later, at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was standing at the door of the inn when I saw a blind man coming along the road. He was feeling his way with a stick. Will any kind friend tell a poor blind man where he is? He said. You're at Admiral Benbow in Black Hill Cove, my good man, I said. I hear a young voice, he said. Will you give me your hand, my kind young friend, and take me inside? I held out my hand, and the terrible, soft speaking, eyeless man took hold of it like a dog biting a bone. He pulled me violently towards him. Now, boy, he said, take me to the captain, or I'll break your arm. And I had never heard a voice so cruel and cold. I was so frightened by the blind man's violence that I obeyed him without question. The captain saw the blind man, and a look of fear passed across his face. Sit where you are, Bill, said the blind man. I can't see, but I can hear a finger move. Hold out your right hand. I watched him put something in the captain's hand. And now that's done, said the blind man, and he quickly went out of the inn. I heard his stick tap tap tapping away along the road. The captain opened his hand and looked into it. 10 o'clock, he cried, and jumped up. He put his hand round his neck, made a strange sound, and fell face down onto the floor, lifeless. On the floor, close to the captain's hand, was a little round piece of paper, blackened on one side. I had no doubt that this was the black spot. On the other side was some writing. You have till 10 o'clock tonight. Our old clock reminded me it was now 6. So, children, here we can understand that after a couple of days, around 3 in the afternoon, Jim stood out of the inn and he noticed the appearance of the blind man who spoke soft in the beginning. Later on, when Jim stretched his hand to help him, he caught Jim's hand like a dog biting a bone. He then immediately pulled Jim towards him and forced Jim to take him to the captain's room. On seeing the blind man, the captain got scared. When Captain cried and tried to escape from the blind man, he was warned by the blind man. Who? The captain was warned by the blind man that he could able to hear even the movement of the finger. And so what happened? Listening to the blind man's words, the captain received a piece of paper in his right hand. Once it was done, the blind man left the inn by tapping his stick along the road. So captain fell down lifeless on seeing the message as 10 o'clock. Finally, Jim collected a piece of round paper which was a black end on one side and the information on the other. And this piece of paper was by the side of captain's hand. And now Jim's doubt about the black spot was clear.